ExxonMobil employees, and welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us. I'm Sam, and I moderate these presentations. And in just a second, we'll be joined by Wesley Boudreau, one of our ExxonMobil focused financial advisors. Wesley is going to be covering how to decide on the best time to retire, given interest rates, and how much your pension will increase or decrease with those interest rates. He'll go obviously much more into depth with you about it than I will. But before he comes on, just a couple quick reminders. First, we are not affiliated nor endorsed whatsoever by ExxonMobil. We are a completely independent group of financial advisors here. So please keep that in mind as you're listening along today. Second, as Wesley is speaking, you will see some links popping up above our heads there. You can click directly on those links. They're going to guide you to various resources we have available, one of which will be a link to follow us on YouTube and LinkedIn. We post tons of Exxon-related content weekly, and we really think you'd get some value out of it if you considered giving us a follow. And lastly, I apologize in advance. Wesley will not have time to answer everyone's questions live today, but I encourage you to still ask away. There is a Q&A box on the screen there, and you can use that box anonymously, and I will make sure one of our ExxonMobil focused financial advisors can answer those questions with you after the presentation has ended, either through phone or email, and address those with you. And without further ado, we're going to jump right into it with Wesley Boudreau.
All right, thank you very much, Samantha, for that introduction. Like she said today, we are going to be talking about the ExxonMobil pension plan. I know we've had previous webinars on here, so really it's going to be kind of an update. Just let everybody kind of know what your choices are, give a little bit of information on the interest rates, and kind of let you know where we can help you out and give you some of our advice. Now, myself and some of the other ExxonMobil focus advisors here at the retirement group have been working with ExxonMobil for 10 or more years. So we've definitely got a deep understanding of your benefits plans. So any questions you have, don't hesitate to reach out after this. Does not mean we're endorsed or employed by ExxonMobil, but again, we've definitely gone through this quite a few times and can answer some questions and help you avoid mistakes we've seen actually happen just by using HR or going through Voya as well. Now, as far as today, we're going to talk about is the pension distribution options. So the good news is you still have a pension at ExxonMobil. A lot of companies don't have these anymore. So the question is, okay, once I do retire or separate, how do I actually access this, and what are the choices there? So it is a classic defined benefit pension plan, in which case there's a formula that dictates how much you're going to get as a single life annuity. So we're going to go through the annuity options. Then we'll talk about if you want to use interest rates, which are the look back period we'll talk about here, in order to recalculate that out to a lump sum. So you can take that money, roll it over, and invest it yourself or work with a firm like the Retirement Group or Wealth Enhancement Group. And we'll be happy to kind of go through those ins and outs with you over the next couple slides. So first and foremost, again, like I said before, you're lucky enough to have a pension plan at ExxonMobil. Not a lot of companies have it. It is a classic defined benefit plan, in which case there's a formula based in order to generate what that income annuity is going to be. So what they do is they look at your years of service times your final average pay times a 1.6% multiplier minus the Social Security offset, because ExxonMobil's been paying in half of your Social Security while you've been employed, to come out with, what's my single life annuity. So it may come out and say, okay, well, Wesley's going to get $3,000 a month from ExxonMobil for the rest of his life. And then from there, there's other choices, whether you want to have a joint and survivor annuity, whether I want to make sure if I were to pass sooner than my spouse, which we tend to do compared to our wives, then I may actually want to have her on there. So that way it pays out a lower amount than that 3,000, but it can pay out over the course of both lives. So that way we know it's going to be, Exxon's going to be on the hook longer to make those payments. We can also do a period certain or overlay a period certain of 10, 15, or 20 years. So what that means is, God forbid something happens to you early on in retirement, then you're still going to have payments going out to your beneficiaries for the rest of that time period. So let's say somebody retires, does a single life annuity with a period certain 20, and they pass away in year 12. Then what's going to happen is those other 8 payments are going to be calculated out and paid out to the beneficiaries they have on file. The other benefit that ExxonMobil came out with, it feels like gosh, probably about 10 years ago or so now, is the partial lump sum option, where you can actually do a split strategy, 25%. This is something that's unique. We do work with a lot of other companies that do have pensions, and we don't have these options elsewhere. But allows you to say, okay, well, maybe I want to take a half and half pension, lump sum, and annuity. Maybe I want to take a 75-25% mix, and we can run through a cash flow analysis to go through all the ins and outs to make sure you understand that. The other question is, okay, well, yeah, sure, here's the choices, but how do I know that I'm going to maximize my pension? How much will I actually get from ExxonMobil? So a key thing to keep in the back of your mind is age 55 plus 15. You'll hear us and everybody else talk to you about that. That's what gets you a retiree and gets you better benefits on medical, but also gives you better benefits as far as the calculation, as far as percentage of your pension. So if you hit 55 plus 15 once you retire and you commence your benefits at age 60, you get 100% of your pension. If you go earlier than that, there's a 5% reduction down to age 55. So somebody retiring at 55 is only get 75% of that. If you're not 55 plus 15, you're going to be a terminee schedule, which is a little bit different. It's about half of that or maybe 60% of that. So it's definitely quite severe. It used to be also you could not get the lump sum option there, but a couple years ago, kind of during the pandemic or post-pandemic, Exxon did allow that. So a terminee can actually get a pension lump sum as well. But again, it's going to be drastically reduced if you're not 55 plus 15. So again, keep all these things in mind when we go through and run a pension estimate for you. So like I said before, the single life annuity, that's the core of the entire calculation. So I think I threw out $3,000 as an example. Let's assume that I went through there, ran that calculation, looked at my final average pay. A lot of times, especially if we're working in the refinery, we'll talk with people about doing more turnaround, or maybe some individuals will go and work overseas for a couple years because they do the highest 36 consecutive months over the last 10 years. And also another issue is making sure that if you've been with the company your entire career, you're probably fine on Social Security, but if you've transitioned or had different breaks in service, we need to look at that Social Security offset because those are some ways where we may be able to garner a little bit more income for you on the annuity and or a bigger lump sum in there. But that's something to kind of give us a call and go through one-on-one. But again, what's going to happen is going to pay that fixed amount. So that $3,000 a month I'd be getting for the rest of my life. No more, no less. So again, if 10 years down the road, that 3,000 a month or 36 grand a year, it's not going to go as far as what it did today. So keep that in mind on there as well. As far as if I want to make sure that, hey, it's not just for me that I'm concerned about, I want to make sure that my significant other is taken care of, then that's where you can do that joint survivor annuity. And there's different variations of, 25, 50, 75, 100% continuation. So let's go back to that $3,000 example. Let's assume that we ran the numbers and maybe I would get 3,000 a month the rest of my life. But if I wanted to do 100% joint and survivor, then it wouldn't be 3,000. It would be something less, maybe making up numbers, maybe $2,600 a month because now ExxonMobil is paying out the course of two lives, both myself and my beneficiary on there. So there's a greater likelihood that one of us will live longer, so they pay a lower amount. So it may be in that example, 3,000 a single life, 2,600 joint survivor, 100% continuation, maybe a 50% continuation would be something like 2,800. So then he or she would actually get 1,400 continued if you were to pass away before. So again, there's that reduction. You need to be kind of careful about that, and the money is paid to that surviving beneficiary for that same time period. So again, definitely something if you're planning to have that guaranteed income for the rest of your lives, then you need to look at that joint survivor annuity closely. Now, what a lot of people tend to do, we definitely saw this during the pandemic because a lot of this is dependent upon interest rates, which we'll talk about in a moment, is they converted their annuity to a lump sum. So what happens is you look at, or ExxonMobil looks at your age, life expectancy, and the current interest rates to determine the net present value of what that annuity would be in a lump sum form. So going back to that $3,000 example I gave myself, they'll go back and say, okay, well, Wesley, let's say is 60 years old. The life expectancy is 86, so we got 26 more years of payments. Let's look at the current interest rates and figure out how much do we have to give Wesley to go out there and recreate or get that same $3,000 a month for the rest of his life. So what's going to happen is when interest rates are higher, they don't have to give us quite as much because we can go out there and earn that theoretically. When interest rates are lower, they have to give you more. So we saw that during the pandemic. We saw some of the highest lump sums we've ever seen. We've seen that pendulum swing with interest rates, and so we've seen the lump sums drop. But again, theoretically, your earning power is higher with that money once you take that. And we'll talk about the interest rates here in just a moment, especially in giving you kind of an example that I created here or updated. We've had this in some of our other webinars, but I feel like it might have been a little bit outdated with the numbers. So things have gotten more expensive, and a lot of times these lump sums are a little bit higher than what they've been in the past. But let's take a look at an annuity versus a mortgage. This is a great example to kind of give you that breakdown as to how it works because they both kind of work similarly. But in this example, I kind of backed out $1 million. Obviously, the interest rates are not reflective of where we are right now. I just used the simple 4% versus 5% so you can see what that difference can look like. But let's assume that somebody has their single life annuity is going to be $4,775 a month, or maybe that's the exact amount that somebody can afford to buy in a mortgage. So if interest rates on the left-hand side are 4% and it's a 30-year period, then that's going to mean that they can afford $1 million house or $1 million mortgage in this case, or it means that they may have $1 million lump sum. Now let's fast forward. If interest rates change just over the course of a quarter or two and they went up by 1%, now instead of 4%, it's 5%. Nothing's changed on the 4,775. That's still what they can afford or what that annuity is. But because the interest rates are higher, now that lump sum went from 1 million down to about $889,000. Now again, this is kind of just for to give you an idea, but in reality, a lot of times we see some of these numbers swing higher or lower. A lot of times a 1% interest change and rates is going to be anywhere from about an 8 to 12% adjustment in your pension lump sum, all dependent upon your age. So again, we can go through those on the pension estimate and give you exact figures. That was for illustration purposes. Uh, Pretty busy slide. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but really it's kind of talking about the look back period. Really, this is just reflecting on the interest rates that are used in order to calculate out that lump sum. It used to be they had GAT rates. Now they're what's called the PPA segment rates, the Pension Protection Act segment rates. Been around since 2008. Some of you that have been working there for a lot longer still may qualify for the grandfather rates, which is the GAT rate. That's going to be the 30-year Treasury average over the last quarter multiplied by 95%. We'll go through that on a chart in just a moment as well. It tends to be lower, so it tends to generate larger lump sums. But again, we can go through this and we run your pension estimate and show you exactly what you're looking at there. But again, as these interest rates change, which they change on a monthly basis, but ExxonMobil reflects them quarterly, you'll get updates and changes to your lump sum calculations. So that will help us determine whether an annuity or a lump sum is better or a combination approach. So look at that seesaw here. I think I already kind of talked about it with the interest rates on the mortgage example, but on that seesaw, there's an inverse relation. So when interest rates go down, your lump sum is going to go up, which we saw during the pandemic. On the opposite, when interest rates come up, which we've seen since then, your lump sum is going to go down. So just keep that in mind. Again, 1% equals about 10% for simple math. The segment rates there, again, there's three segment rates. There's the first, second, and third. You can think about like short term, mid term, and long term tied to the bond rates typically. The first segment is going to cover the first 5 years of retirement. Second segment is going to be for years 6 through 20. And the third segment is going to be years 21 and beyond. So depending upon how old you are, there may be a higher weighting on one or the other. But obviously with the 15-year period in the second, that's the highest weighting for most all of us. So we tend to kind of focus or gravitate towards that. And what they do is they go back and look at the final 2 month average of the prior quarter. So you'll see we have got the pension rates for the first quarter and second quarter 2025 up here. I do not have quarter three because we will not have that until the PPA segment rates for March are released, which usually is about that third week the following month. So we won't have that until just after tax season, probably the third or fourth week of April. As far as the actual rates, I can't get away without the glasses here. I apologize, but we can see these have actually kind of come up. If I were to go back here and give you the 2023 and 2022 rates, you'd see lower numbers. But what we saw, if we look at that second segment as an example, we look at Q2, so that first line in blue, that's going to be 5.27%. If we look at the line below there, 4.86%. That was the rates in the first quarter of 2025. So again, what we saw is below there, you can see we were up in the fives and we've kind of gone down, dipped to the 4.86 and are getting back up into the fives again. So we kind of had a unique period there. That's why we like to watch the and monitor the rates on a quarterly basis, where we had a lot of individuals kind of take advantage of that first quarter in order to get in there and actually commence their benefits and get that lower interest rate, which kicked up their lump sum a bit. In some cases, 20, 30, 40, $50,000, depending upon the amount of your lump sum. So it's really important to understand these. And on the end, the GAT rate, the grandfather rates, those have come up a bit too, from 4 to 4.25 as well. You can see on the right hand side, they kind of bounced around there as well. That is tied to the treasuries. The PPA segment rates are tied towards corporate bonds, which typically is going to reflect for most of you. So again, any questions on there you want to dig into it and review, just let us know. A lot of times we will help individuals defer, commence their benefits tied to this, and also tied to age penalties to figure out when the best time is if they are taking that lump sum, if that's the right choice for them. So really, when it's said and done, I talked about three choices, really three or more choices. There's multiple combinations if you want to look at it. So again, the standard approach, take that ExxonMobil annuity, but within there, there's some sub choices. Again, that single life annuity we talked about, the period certain, the joint survivor. You can actually do a joint survivor with a period certain. So there's some combinations to go through there with you. Take that lump sum. You can actually take the lump sum, like we mentioned, and go ahead and there's choices from there. If you decide, hey, I want that lump sum because I don't want it to be tied to Exxon for the rest of my life. Maybe I want to reinvest it myself, do something differently, work with a retirement group. Maybe you want to take withdrawals off of that in order to supplement your income. Maybe you think you've got more inflationary protection there, or maybe that you say, hey, I did like the annuity option, but let me see what else is out there. Not as much as what we saw about 2 years ago, but it tends to be in some cases where, depending upon the person, you might be able to take that lump sum and with all or a portion of that, get a private annuity that may pay better than what the ExxonMobil pension annuity is going to pay. Or it could pay about the same, but maybe it gives you a cash refund option where if something were to happen to you, your beneficiaries still get that cash out of there versus ExxonMobil keeping it. And then you can take a combination of all these. So there's a lot of different planning that goes into place with this. So it's really important to understand that and don't just make a quick knee-jerk reaction as to your options. It's really important to kind of give us a call to sit down, go through this. And this is just the pension we're talking about. We also want to help you understand that 401k plan, look at NUA strategies in there as well, the retiree medical benefits, things like that. But really about right now, about three-fourths of Americans over 50 don't have a written plan. If you can spend about 10 to 15 minutes with us gathering some basic data, we can get that rough draft or the first draft, if you would, of that financial plan put together for you. It'll be pretty detailed, but from there we can go ahead and dig even deeper and make it more detailed if you want. Dig into your budget, dig into some different flexibility options, and go through the choices. You can say, "Hey, Wesley, I'm thinking about retiring at the end of 2025. Is that the best thing to do?" And we can look at it and say, okay, unfortunately, you might need to work another year or two because your expenses are so high. Or, yes, you're good there. Maybe you could go a little bit earlier if you want to. Let's look at rates, see what happens there. So there's a lot of different options to kind of look in there and really show you how those play out, not just now, but the next 20, 30, 40 years in those choices so you know what everything is on there. And just kind of lastly, kind of reiterate who the retirement group is. Things have changed a little bit, but the retirement group have been around for about 30 years or so, working with Fortune 500 companies, helping their employees transition to retirement. Myself and some of our other ExxonMobil focused advisors have been working exclusively with ExxonMobil. So it gives us a deeper understanding of your benefits plans, whether it be the pension we just talked about, the 401k, healthcare, retiree medical benefits, life insurance, continuation, things like that. We can go through all those with you. We have offices throughout the country. We actually merged with Wealth Enhancement Group last year, so now we've got access to a lot more structure as far as offices. We got over 100 offices throughout the country. The management over just slightly over $100 billion under management, access to a lot more resources and tools than what we had before. So whether we get into tax planning, estate planning, insurance planning, there's a lot of different facets that we can take care of for you. But again, at the end of the day, just take us up on that complementary cash flow analysis. Even if it's been a year or two, obviously things have changed in interest rates and the markets. Give us a call. We can go through and update that again because we do want to make sure those are updated at least every year or so to see if you're on path and see if there's any adjustments or changes to look at there. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. I got two questions come through. We'll take care of, but keep these QR codes up on the screen. There's one where to get into schedule an appointment with myself or one of the other advisors in the office. There's also one to get into our LinkedIn page if you want to follow along with us on LinkedIn. That way you can get more updated information as to the next webinars, next seminars, just the articles we may put out on ExxonMobil. You can call us at 800-900-5867. You can also email us at info@theretirementgroup.com. Okay, first question. Um, I'm thinking of leaving at 57. How do I know if I'm going to get all of my pension? Okay, so this on some of the other seminars and webinars, we actually have the breakdown grid on there. But let's say theoretically somebody's going to retire at 57. Generally speaking, hopefully they are 55 plus 15, like we talked about before. So if they retired at 57 and decide to commence their benefits at retirement, then they're going to get a 15% reduction, so 5% per year. So they'd only get 85% of their pension. Now that person would have the option if they say, well, I don't need it right now, or maybe I'm doing something else. They can actually defer out of that age penalty each year and wait till 60 to get 100% of that pension. Now, depending upon if they're taking the lump sum, then interest rates come into play, and those could, if they're changing, they could offset that age penalty. So it's something to kind of dig into and look at. Um, if you're not 55 plus 15, and depending on how close you are, I'd strongly urge to stay on longer until you at least hit that 55 plus 15, because instead of a 85%, it might be, I think it's maybe 54, 55% or something like that. So your amount you're going to get is going to get cut by 40 some odd percent or so. So instead of 85% of your pension, you might get 54, 55% at that point. So again, it's really important to understand that and kind of go through those strategies. One more question. Uh, um, when do I have to take my benefits, and how long do I have to notify them? Okay, so kind of maybe piggybacking on that same question. So like I said before, there's retirement date and there's also the commencement date. So those are different. You can retire, December 31st of 2025, and your commencement date can be the next day, January 1st, 2026. Commencement dates are on the first of the month. So what that means is I'm gonna retire and then I'm going to get my benefits pretty soon right after, whether it be the annuity or the lump sum. Or in that example, like I said before, that person maybe 57 says, okay, I might retire at the end of the year, but I want to defer my benefits. I want to defer commencing my benefits. So instead of taking it January 1st, I might one of two things. I might wait a year so I get a 5% bump in my benefits, or I'm looking at the interest rates and they might be dropping, so I might just wait 6 months or and decide second quarter or third quarter of the next year, depending upon the interest rates, because maybe they've gone down and they're turning going back up. So again, there's a lot of different things to kind of look at there. As far as timing, ExxonMobil Benefits is usually going to say they want 60 to 90 days, prior to retirement, so they get all their ducks in a row, get the paperwork taken care of. We've done it last minute plenty of times. Not saying you should, but really up until your retirement, you can get that paperwork done. It's just going to delay getting those payments, whether it be the annuity or the lump sum check. So in that example, let's say if that person waited till December 15th, they could still potentially get their paperwork and get it all done electronically, and get it notarized, but they're not going to get a check on January 1st. It might not be till sometime in mid-February or something like that that they get that. So that's the one thing to be aware of. And do me a favor, kind of give me a call to kind of go through this. I can't tell you how many mistakes we've unfortunately seen, especially with some of the changes to the record keeping of the pension. I actually worked with two individuals in the first quarter that were commencing pretty much requested paperwork about the same week or so and got different answers from different reps. One being told that they're fine, got the paperwork done pretty quickly. One being told, oh, you missed the deadline, you can't do it. And that was definitely false information, but we were able to get through there and get that taken care of. So again, be very careful in this process. Go ahead and lean on the retirement group, myself, one of the other advisors to kind of, at a minimum, hold your hand through the process so you know what you're going to get. And so you walk out and maximize your benefits. And then from there, if you need help, hopefully you just throw our hat in the ring when it comes time for that investment management side of it as well. So with that, I don't have any other questions or time for questions. So we're going to get this wrapped up, get you on your way back to work. Again, any questions you have, reach us at 800-900-5867. And again, I went extensively through some of these Exxon plans, but does not mean we're endorsed or employed by them. But any information you need or any help you need on here, just give us a call. We'll be happy to help you out. Thank you, and we hope you have a great day.